Welcome back to Kakepipe Automotive. So this is the episode where we install our standalone ECU. So we've gone for the Maxx ECU RACE, as you can see, from Pro Race Engineering, because we thought that that was the best option for us to move forward with a standalone unit. Now I have obviously been playing with this for some quite time now. It's been about a month and a half I've had this, and what I've been doing is just going through, making sure that everything that we need to do this conversion, all the pinouts, everything is set correctly. We've removed all the stuff that we don't need so far, and here's just the existing loom ready to go into the car, and I'll show you the car in a second. However, we've decided to kind of go from a plug and play option that I originally decided to do to more of a just purpose-built loom for this ECU. I've had a lot of help with making sure everything's right, sanity checked and all that kind of cool shit, but essentially what we will be doing is drive-by-wire. So this is a Mark 7 pedal, nice and slim, should be easy enough to fit, and this is a W12 Bentley 74, I think, something like that. Anyway, 74mm throttle body. Again, this fits perfectly onto the OBD2 manifold, which obviously I have because it's been converted to OBD2. So like I said, we've got everything ready to rock and roll. I've already made the plate up for this to go in the car. I'll show you that in a second. We've already wired up the wideband. We've already got the pedal connector wired in. We've removed all the stuff that we don't need right now. So we're just on the journey of removing the existing OBD2 loom, and just making sure everything's okay with that. Also, I've created myself from an old OBD1 loom, a coil pack loom, the necessary connectors that I need to repin onto the new ECU loom. So that again enables me to keep the OBD2 loom as it is without cutting it up or anything like that. So we are just gonna whip it out of the car, put the new ECU in on its bracket, and then start bringing the wiring through. I'm thinking I'm bringing it through this hole here. There's a hole already there. We're going to use this beauty to feed everything through, so then there's no actual physical holes in the bulkhead to get through. The scrutineers will love that, and it means that they can all come down here as they are, like this. But essentially it'll just let me tidy things up a lot better working on the engine when I start pulling the wires through. So I'll bring you back shortly once we remove the existing loom and we start pulling the new loom through. Right, so that's all of the main ECU to interior loom that comes down, connects to the big connector here, goes back inside and goes to the fuse box. Now there are certain connectors that needed or did go back to the fuse box, obviously for the dash, the clocks and things like that. So I will need to feed another 12 volt from here to the fuse box, just to provide power to everything else, because I still want to use that. And there was an additional wire from the fuse box that gave power to the injectors. It was on its own loom. I believe it's under a relay, so I'd like to keep that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, I've got an existing one in that box just down there. I'm going to put a new one in and just move it over, so it'll come to the ECU straight direct from the fuse box straight over. And then obviously you've got the main ground as well, that came to here, so I'm going to put that back in as well. If I can keep things uniform, it means if something doesn't go right and I need to transform back, I can, and it'll be super simple, as in literally I haven't got to take this off. I am going to take that off. They're in. I've just got to change the ECU loom, and I'll just throw it in and tie it up out of the way if needed. So this is where the ECU is going to go. On the right hand side there, as you can see, the 4 holes will be the mounting point, and then on the left hand side I've got enough room for a little relay pack, because there are certain things I want to control via relay from the ECU. So the next step really is to just take the old ECU out for now. I'm going to also keep the bracket and mounting position and everything like that clear, so if it does need to go back in, it can do. There's some wires in that fuse box that still need to come out because they're never used, so I can reduce them down as well. And as you can see, I took the door off because it was pissing me off, and it's easier to get in and out of the car. So as you could probably see from this bit here, I have been working on what pins are what sensors on the original ECU go where, what colour wires, what they would go to on the new ECU, what fuse box connections I need. Even though we will eventually be removing the fuse box, I'm going to keep it in for now because everything else works off it, i.e. the indicators, the reverse lights, all the other crap that's needed. And yeah, I've just spent absolutely weeks just sanity checking, going through everything. In all honesty, it's pretty simplistic. I'm really not sure if you can see from this diagram that they give you, but essentially you've got all of the sensors anyway, already with wires, already terminated, they're already joined, and literally you need your TPS, IAT, coolant temp sensor. You've got all your ignition, all of your injectors, a few more outputs if you want them, crank sensor, cam sensor, cylinder ground, your wideband, and e-throttle. Honestly, I thought it would be a lot more complex than this, but it really isn't. So that's taken 2 whole days to get the fuse box connectors from the original fuse box over to here to the power connector, and then sort all the wiring out to go through the bulkhead. I have left the lander, the wideband, sorry, just in here for now. That'll be the last thing to go through because actually it doesn't go where the rest of the wiring goes. It's going to just tuck underneath, and it looks a bit too long anyway, so I'm probably going to have to cut that down and recrimp that. Onto the engine side. As you can see, the original loom that was on this is altogether still in the workshop. However, the new loom from the Maxx ECU is now through the bulkhead. And as you can see, look, that's the majority of the loom there. The ones with this mesh covering it, that lot is F on the fuse box, so that kind of provides power to the starter, provides power to the reverse switch and stuff like that. That's not going to change. That doesn't interfere with the Maxx ECU. So the car should start as it always started, on the push button, because it will all go through the fuse box and it's not all directly controlled by the Maxx ECU. Eventually, when we do get rid of the fuse box, yes, that will all be changed and more will be put onto the Maxx ECU, but that's for a completely different date. So the job now is to obviously work out where this spaghetti mess goes. Now, I know where all of it goes anyway. It's now about, right, how do we make it nice, tidy and safe that we can route it places? So yeah, that's all literally I've got to work out now, is just routing it to the required areas to come to the coil pack, the cam sensor, etc. And then we're good. So I think we're just about there with the wiring. I've just been going through, making sure I've got redundancy, making sure I've got extras. So for instance, I have a fuel pressure and temp sensor that I've bought that will go there. The oil, temp and pressure sensor goes down there. Water, temp and pressure goes there. And then we've got the speed sensor, which I need to finish off down there. But we're going to run a brake pressure and temp sensor on both the rear and front lines, because they are separate from the master cylinder, so I can do that. But we're going to do that when we change the brake lines, because the front brake lines and the rear brake lines will eventually be changed to be easier to maintain and service. So yeah, so all I'm going to do now is just get the injectors, which are these, start measuring, start putting the plugs on, and saying, right, that's how much cable I need. I've obviously got to splice the 12 volt power 6 times or 5 times, so to speak. So I'll do that. But what I think I'm going to do is bring it here, bring it halfway, splice 3 that way, and then 3 that way, so then the crimp can hold evenly. I just think it'll be a lot better for the crimp. Crimp should hold a lot better then as well. So, and then up here we have the drive-by-wire throttle body, the second knock sensor, and the 2 engine grounds. All of these here are, well, they're just additional, really. So you've got a few outputs. You've got the other 3 coil pack leads. So what I think I'm going to do with this is, because eventually we will go to coil on pack or coil on spark, whatever the fuck it's called, so we can have individual spark. So I will need these, so I'm not going to remove them, and I'm probably not going to remove this whole bunch. I'm just going to coil it up, because there's nothing here. Coil it all up and keep it, and just tie it to the engine crane ring there. And that'll just let me, you know, if I go, fuck, I need it, I want to add something, or I want to take something away, or whatever it is, it gives me that without having to try and route it all the way through the existing loom. So it's already there. So unfortunately, we've had an issue with the Maxx ECU. Now this issue isn't a massive problem with the ECU. It is and it's not. So we were struggling to get a crank signal. It was really noisy as it was anyway. However, I got the car kind of set up with a crank signal, did a few other sensors, and then I left it for the night, came back the next day, and it just wouldn't read the crank signal. So I kind of fault finded it, put new sensors on, checked all the wiring, checked everything, and it was just getting nothing. So I spoke to Maxx ECU themselves, and they ran a few things through me, asked me to do certain things, and I did. And it turns out one of the pins on the Maxx ECU was faulty. Now that's not a big issue. You know, I spoke to them, 1 out of, I think it was all of the time they've been producing the Maxx ECU Race. They've not really seen this, and it was the crank sensor pin, the signal pin. Regardless of that, spoke to them, we got it sorted, sent it back to Pro Race Engineering. Literally within 2 days, I've got a brand new one in my possession. I've tested it all, it works perfectly, the super clean signals from the crank. On top of that, the ECU has already paid for itself. So I didn't know that our temp sensor, the blue Volkswagen temp sensor that is always problematic, was broken. It was a new temp sensor after we rebuilt the engine at the end of last year, and it was faulty out of the box. So it read 2 degrees Celsius, whatever that value is, on the ECU, okay? And it didn't change. Literally, I had a blowtorch on it and it wasn't changing. So that meant that the car was running in cold start at Croft and Silverstone continuously. And that's why I feel that we were overfueling. Along with that, we have detected that the cam trigger on the cam itself was defective and there was no cam signal, none. So the engine didn't really know what it was doing. The ECU was just dumping fuel in and just doing its best with the information it had. So we had two big issues there, two sensor issues there that were probably knocking our power just down and down and down. And that's why we were so slow, and that's why we didn't have the power at both of the races. So they are both now sorted. We have Bosch Motorsport sensors everywhere. What I will do is take you through where we currently are and what we need to do next. And yeah, let's take you. So we have air intake, temp sensor done, the coil pack is done, the cam sensor is done, throttle body is done, all of the injectors are done, one of the knock sensors and the crank sensor is done. Still waiting on the connector for that. It never turned up, so just got to put that onto that. And then that's the two knock sensors done. All of the grounds are done. So you've got grounds to the engine or the cylinder head, as it suggests. Then you've got your sensor grounds that directly feed straight back to the ECU. All of that is nice and tidied down here, and it will go all the way back. We've put our coil pack ground to where it was before, so that should be all good. So I have 3 additional 0 to 5 volt inputs. So like I said before, we have got the fuel pressure temp sensor to go there. It's just going to be another one of these when I order it, and that's going to go there. We're still going to use the 4-bar pressure because it's built in. There's no need for me to change that, but I would like to see the temperature and the pressure as it gets to this place. I think it would just be a nice addition to have. So as you can see, the W12 throttle body is on, and it does work with the drive-by-wire pedal, which is here. However, if you know what this is, you will see it's a Mark 7 Golf automatic pedal because it has the step. So you press it down and then there's additional click, like in most automatic models. So I do have a non-automatic pedal coming, but I will be keeping that as a spare, just in case, for whatever reason, something breaks at the track, I can easily replace it. So I've got the car set up with that currently, but when the new one comes, it's literally 2 clicks and the new one will be set up. However, you might be thinking, well, how am I going to fit this pedal down there with the use of one of these? So this is a Fabulous Manufacturing pedal conversion mount, and from the Mark II Golf right-hand drive to the Corrado, there is a subtle difference. However, because I'm running a Passat pedal box, I think it is, or I can't remember if it's a Passat or something else, I don't need to modify it. Literally, that'll just bolt up to where the brake servo, or whatever it's called, goes, just bolts on, and then the pedal will be held on there. Nice and simple, nice and easy. So once everything's set up and I can, you know, get the car to where I need it to be, that will be the last thing to fit down there.
3 weeks later.
So she's all done. Maxx ECU Race is all in. It's all wired, it's all programmed. We've been to the dyno, we've got a horsepower figure. I'll show you all of that in the next video. We have a few issues we need to sort out. We're not quite at the power we initially wanted, but again, I'll explain that in the next video. However, she's there. She's all done. Fucking hell, this is odd. There you go. She's all done, all wired in. If you notice, there's no throttle cable, drive-by-wire. We didn't use the knock sensors, so still need to put them on. Still need to enable the fuel pressure and temperature. I've got a few other sensors that I want to put on, like wheel speed, intake temp, not intake air temp, so I can see the difference, and just bits and pieces as we go on that will allow me to see more data, because I'm a data whore, and to be able to tell what's going on, where it's going on, if something fails, if something doesn't fail, if it's going right, blah, 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 blah. However, she's done. So thanks for sticking around. I know this video's been a while coming to you. However, we are done with MaxxECU. It's on, it's in, it works, it drives, and we have a track day booked on the 20th at Donington to get the car set up ready for the race at Donington, August the 6th. So, cheers guys, see you on the next one.